Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Today's video is about these Profiler small block Chevy heads. I'm going to tell you about why I ported them the way I did. I'll show you some of the stuff, the flow numbers of course, and talk about how they get all done. I'm also going to show you the manifold that I ported to match it. So this customer in particular, he has a 383 small block Chevy. Now this one's a bit different than most of the stuff I do. He is doing a road course thing. So this is a bit different than what I mostly do because mostly it's street strip or drag racing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do road course and pretty much any other thing you can imagine, but in general, these don't come up as often. Now, the difference between the drag racing port head versus a road course or even a circle track stuff is in a drag race, we're really a narrow operating band in which we operate. And in a road course or circle track, you operate at a much wider RPM band. So due to that, you do port the heads differently because you do focus more on the velocities. So if you were to put them on the dyno, a road course or a circle track head will probably most likely make less peak power, but it will make more power over a larger band. It may not make as much torque as a drag race or power, but it will make more over the band that it operates in. You would say, well, wouldn't that make it faster the drag strip? No, because the band that the road course operates, a large one, is not the same band that you'd operate in a drag racing where it's very narrow. You could make more power in that little range and be horrible in the wider range. Anyway, so point being is port velocities are very important. So getting trying to make the port as efficient as possible is the key. So we don't want to make it just flow as much as possible. Every bit of flow has to be tied directly to how much area we're gaining to keep the velocities where we want them to be. So in general, the reason why I'm doing this head, this profiler head, is because I give every customer that contacts me out, I will ask them what they're doing, and then I'll give some recommendations. Usually it starts from the lowest budget to the highest budget, and these end up being one of the highest ones. You might say, how are these ones the most highest? So Brodix makes awesome heads, but they don't make a lot of heads that are great for a smaller cubic inch engine. So the Dragon Slayers are loved, and they're definitely for the bigger stuff, 400 and up. But in the 383 size, they really don't have a lot of heads that I think are very good. Now, Profiler on the hand, which is the one that makes this one, they do. This is a Profiler 210 that it started off with. They also have a 195. Both of those are great heads. They're as cast heads. I was a huge fan of them for many, many, many years until right about COVID, they went stupid high on the pricing. So just to give you an idea, you can go back and watch one of my videos because I still get people commenting constantly. I used to do a 195 Profiler as cast versus a CNC ported AFR 195. The price difference back then was $600. The Profiler was $600 cheaper and it only flowed like maybe 10 CFM less. So good bang for the buck. Flash forward to today, if you were to get a Profiler 195 now, that head is only $50 cheaper when you assemble it than a full CNC'd AFR 195. So you went from a $600 difference to $50 difference. It doesn't make it worth it. These are 210s. Even as they are, if you get an AFR 210, which is a little bit more expensive, these are only now $200 cheaper. It doesn't make any sense at all. And these come with an as-cast chamber, as they're bowl blended from the factory and they're basically done. They have their gasket match isn't as good. The fit and finish, getting rockers to line up isn't as good. It's just, they really priced themselves right out of the market. And when they did that, I hadn't sold a single set until now. So this customer, when I gave him the option, I said, if I port the Profiler, it really is the best head for what you're doing. It's just expensive. So that's why we have it here. So what did I do? Well, for one, because it's road course application, I actually left it at a 45-degree valve job. Usually I'll put a 50-degree stuff in my drag race stuff. But because I want for longevity, these are a 45-degree seat versus the 50 I usually put on stuff. The other thing is this is a 208 intake valve. Because it's standard valve spacing and a 4030 bore, I usually stick with the 208. You could get away with the 210, but the seat, they've changed that too, and I mentioned it in some of my other videos. Sorry about the strobing light. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, the seat doesn't seem like it's as large because I think what they tried to do to save money was Brodix has interlocking seat, which means you have a big old exhaust seat and the intake cuts into it. To save money, I think Profiler just makes the seat smaller because now that 208's almost at the end of the seat, which kind of sucks. So getting a 210, I don't know if it'll work. But again, being a 4030 bore, 208 intake valve. 1.6 exhaust valve, kept at the same 45-degree seats. I can make it flow more at the upper ends with the 50-degree stuff. So it's typically on a road course application, you're not going to run as much lift as you would say on a drag race. And the reason why is you're trying to get it to last and live longer, and you're running them longer. So we don't have as much lift. But anyway, so 45-degree seats on both. The runner volume started off at 210. Right now, I'm going to guess, because I didn't pour it, they're probably closer to between 215 and 220, right in that range. This is one of the things I can't stand. See how it's not straight? That's my line that I made. See how thin it is here? That's not because I poured it that way, because you could see where some of the casting still remains. That's how thin it is from the factory. I hate thin walls like through this, because if I wanted to make it perfectly straight, this wall here on this port here is moved over way that way, and this one's not the same. So this port's dramatically different than that one. So it doesn't look straight, and I hate that look, but I prefer that just because it's like, it would look visually appealing for the line to be straight, but this would have more cross section than that one. And the other thing is, I kind of want it to seal, and the narrower it gets, the more I worry to get it out sealing. I do like this bottom here. It was almost like they raised up their port some on the profilers, but that'd be great if you could mill some, but you can't, because disadvantage of this. If you look how close the seat is to the deck, there's very little aluminum. So if you went to mill off more than really like 12 thousandths, you're probably cutting into the metal part of the seat. So you have plenty of material here to flat mill, but you don't there on the seat, otherwise you'll get right into it. So 64, you can get about 62 if you're really lucky, but that's it. That's the downside of these, but they do move a lot of air. The cross-sectional area, pretty good amount for what this is. It's pretty good and it'll work relatively well. God, I hate that, it looks like crap. This one looks better just because the way it was cast, you could tell. Again, I didn't remove any. I was trying to see, I got some, maybe I moved some up here because it kind of, when you get them, they're thin like this and they taper out this way. But man, I just hate it. There's one that's done. That's the other one that's done. But anyway, there's that. These are straight plug. They do come in an angle plug or straight plug. So they do have this nice bar for where you mount your rocker arm stands to, and this guy's gonna run a shaft rocker. They also do have this nice passage that's cut through the head here for the oil drain back. That's nice. Nice big spring pockets too. The exhaust port, this is a D port, and these do not flow as well as my Dragon Slayers, even though they're the same design. Because the Dragon Slayers are moved up about 300 thousandths from what this is. So these do not move the same amount of air, but still really good. Anyway, I'll share with you the flow numbers here in just a second so you can see all that. But here's how they come all assembled. I use this as a AFR spring. It's their 700 lift pack one and their titanium retainers. I really like this when you're using less than 700 lift valve. It's great, and these springs aren't as crazy expensive. The intake that I got paired with it was this one. This is the AFR 4811, and I've used it on the Dyno Mule several times. Not this exact manifold, but I've used the 4811 several times. It's a great manifold, broad torque. The biggest thing is, you notice I left a clover in. On a road course thing, like I ported this, obviously it's fully ported, but I left it in because it does do better in the lower RPMs. So throttle response is actually better having the clover leaf in, especially in the lower stuff. It's got enough area, as you can see. I got a rough textured finish on the floor there. The rest of it's 60 grit, but it's a nice piece, and this is gonna work out well to match with these heads. So definitely recommend this for like more of a street or road course thing. You can leave that clover leaf in. A lot of the time on the drag racing, all that stuff's removed, and I make the whole plenum bigger. On the road course stuff, you keep things as efficient as possible so we're not losing any of the velocity. But anyway, I need to show you the flow numbers because I know some of you aren't sticking around for this whole video. But I love profiler heads, I truly do. I just wish they were back to the price that they were. They could have raised them up like 100 or 200 bucks, but to raise them up almost double, it seemed ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, great head. I do not like that at all. It bugs the crap out of me. So I know you're like, you should just straighten it. Like I said, so the one side could be bigger than the other, which is the manifolds on, they're never gonna be quite the same anyway. But anyway, just looking at it, even as I'm filming, I'm like, It's not perfect. Will it affect anything? Absolutely not. I probably could straighten this up. The flow wouldn't affect anything. The actual CSA grace would affect nothing. Probably nothing at all, but I just can't do it. It just bothers me. But anyway, because it doesn't look perfect. So let me get to the flow numbers and I will share those with you real quick. Let me show you the flow numbers. Now this is flowed on a 4030 bore because the 383 has a 4030 bore. I have two flow benches, just to remind you guys. That's the Signs Digital 680. Then I've got my Superflow 750. So I floated on both. Most of my ported heads, so if you buy a set of ported heads from me, I flow them on both just so you have them. Because I do guarantee the numbers. I guarantee the ones on the Signs. So this is the Signs bench, and if you look at 400, it's 245. Not bad, especially 208 valve, 4030 bore. Look at 305. That's really good. And it's got 317, about 900. Trails off a little bit there after that at 1. By the way, just so you know, again, I didn't CC it, but it's going to be probably between 215 and 220. The minimum cross-sectional area is 2.4. It's actually 2.38, but we'll just round up 2.4. Great for a road course, perfect for that. Exhaust side, now I use a tube exhaust valve to get at this. It's 180 at 4 and does 230. This is without an exhaust pipe. So now here's what's interesting. The Superflow reads differently. So for one thing it does, the intake reads higher on the Superflow. The exhaust reads usually lower, and it does. So we look at it on the intake side on the Superflow, same head. All I did was take it off, the fixture and stuff off, not the fixture, but the plate, the bore, and just plopped it on that and reflowed it. And if you look at it, now we've got 253 at 4, 600 it says 310, and look, it never backs up and goes 322. Really, really good. Exhaust side, see it says it reads lower. It only reads 223 on this one. So that's a bit different. So really, really nice flow head. Like the head. But just to give you an idea, so I can kind of give you a comparison about how good this is. This head right here, this is on the Signs bench, not the Superflow, so this just kind of makes you feel good. Comparing this one to this one. This is the my ProMax 235 CNC head that I did a program for, ProMax sells. This is with me redoing the valve job. It's a nice head. But if you look at it, this is on a bigger bore too. 250 versus this one's 245. And this is 235 versus maybe 220. So 15 CSCs bigger. But at 308 versus the 305. So it's only 4 CFM, but there, peak 317, it's almost the same. Exhaust side though, that's a different story. It's much better through here than this one is. And that's without a tube exhaust valve. So point being, what I'm trying to make is, this head's move a lot of air for the size that they are. If I did flow this on a 4155 bore, what it probably would have done, especially on the Superflow bench, it probably been real close to 330, which would be almost as good as this head, this ProMax, but it would have been smaller in volume, moving as much air. And I'm not knocking that head because I designed that head. It's just these heads you can make so much better. They just cost so much more. So for instance, this head fully ported and by me hand ported is still $600 more than this head CNC ported with my program on it and me redoing the valve job. So same parts too. It's pretty high. Yeah, but anyway, and I know other people have CNC programs from this. So if I was to do a CNC program for this, it would cost phenomenally. It would be price itself right out of the market. It'd be a fantastic head that wouldn't sell. The other thing is these are straight plugs. If I'd done an angle plug, they probably would flow a little bit better too. But anyway, I know it's kind of a product review video. I don't hardly do about my own stuff enough, I don't feel. But it's a really nice head. It's going to be great, make great power for that. If the 406 was still up and I had a set of these, I would definitely test it on that small block Chevy mule. I'm a huge fan of this intake. It's proven itself over and over again on the dyno mule, especially on with the Clover. It's going to be great for what this is. But anyway, thanks for watching. I am no Superman. I do not port cast iron heads. Obviously, I like to port aluminum heads. Give me a shot. I'm definitely worth it on make power. This stuff makes power. But you guys take care.